Alright, YouTube, it is Mr. Mean coming at you from very sunny Duluth, Minnesota. I think the temperature today is a balmy 29 degrees. It's almost shorts weather. As you can see on the screen today, I wanted to go over one of my favorite long-time love-hate RPGs. And I stacked everything on top of it like a big dummy. It got my Kickstarter here. Woohoo! No coffee this morning. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way. As always, like and subscribe. Hit the bell to be dinged when I dong, and you'll know when I upload new videos. Another thing is, as most of you know, I'm unfortunately in mid-February I got laid off. I'm in the IT industry. I do senior desktop support stuff. It's a hard field to work in, especially in a small town like Duluth. But I'm actively looking for work. But if you feel the need to give and you want to help support the channel, put a little food on my table, it's greatly appreciated. And I'm on Zelly Pay. Most of the banks take it. It's great because unlike Patreon, it doesn't tie up your money for several days and nobody takes a cut. Whatever you donate to me goes to me. So you know that if you give me $5, $5 goes to me. If you give me $20, $20 goes to me. So ZellyPay, ZELLE. .com. There'll be links down in the doobly-doo. What's cool is if you've got a mobile phone, it's on your phone already with your banking institution. Most of them have some sort of link. It's free for you and it's free for me, and it's pretty much almost instantaneous. Usually donations, if you make a donation by 9 o'clock, by 9:30 a.m., that same day, 9 o'clock a.m., 9:30, 9:15, I have it. It's in my bank. So it's really great. It's very easy to use, painless. You can set up a monthly contribution. If you like what I do here on the channel and you find my videos informative and or fun or just whimsical, then please help support the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Otherwise, like and subscribe as always. Find me on MeWe. Find me on Discord. Links are on my YouTube channel page. And then I think I put links in the doobly-doo. Anyway, hair's a mess. Welcome to my world, guys. Beard's going crazy. I got to do a little trim, but it's looking okay. But today's video du jour, near and dear to my heart, Palladium Fantasy RPG. Let's go with the pros, then we'll go with the cons. There's going to be a bit of a video rant on this, so I'll segue into the rant at the proper time, and those who don't care to listen to my rant can turn it off if it's not their cup of tea. Or if you choose to, you can go ahead, and I'll try to put a note down in the links at what time I start the rant, so that those who only want to watch the rant can jump ahead to that part. I'll make sure I make a note of that. Anyway, so, man, I tried to make this video yesterday, but for some reason it wouldn't live stream to YouTube. I don't know what the problem was. Third printing, October 1998. So this book's over 20 years old. The original printing was 1983. This game's been around for over 30 years, and they haven't really changed it. I did go through a second revision, which is what this one is. Which, if you can get the first edition book, it's a great collector's item. The art in it is good. It's a lot of recycled art in the second edition. They've cleaned up some stuff in the second edition. But man, you want to talk about a great fantasy setting. Obviously, very tokenism. This has been around since the early days. It's nice. I bought this book when it was new, $24.95. Now, I went on Palladium's website yesterday to their store, and you can still buy this. It's pretty much the same book. I don't think they've made any changes into it. And it's $28.95. So the book went up $4 or $29. It went up $4. That's pretty good bang for your buck for 300 and something pages. 356 pages. One of the funny things, though, and I don't know if they've corrected this in the newer printings, there's no character sheet in here. You have to go to Palladium's website or search the web, and you'll find some character sheets. Because this is back in the day, 83, 84. Internet wasn't really that hot. I don't even think, was the internet even around? I think it was barely in its infancy. And photocopiers weren't like, everybody didn't have access to a photocopier or a scanner. So you used graph paper, pen and paper, you used an index card. But man, if you could fit a Palladium character on this, you wrote really small. I can't. I write like a doctor, so I can't even read my own handwriting. So I type everything for the most part. But anyway, great art. Let's see if we can find. Everybody knows my thing is art consistency. And this book has it in spades. There's a few artists. Kevin Symbieta, the designer of the game. There's some of the art in the book, really good. I'm a big fan of the art style. They in later books went to a different artist, and Fasa used this same person, and I don't know their name, but they had like a fuzzy, almost cartoony style, but the art was like very fuzzy and soft, and I didn't like it, and so a lot of their books use that style. Here's a piece of art by Kevin himself, so not bad. There's a Wolfen. Great, fantasy trope character classes. Your fighter, your wizard, your cleric, your thief. The nice thing about this is it gave you a couple of different occupational character classes. That's what your classes were called or are called, because the game is still around. This is also, by the way, if you don't know, this is still a very playable game. If you go to a convention, you see someone running this, go check it out. Do yourself a favor. I think this is still a very viable fantasy RPG. And one of the pros of it is it's been around for 30 years and it's still going strong. It's still available for purchase on their website, and I think it's a good game. So the art is pretty phenomenal. I like it a lot. It very much sets the tone. It's very clear and concise in its meaning. I like that. They do have several different artists, but like I said, they maintain a theme, and none of the art feels terribly out of place. I'm trying to find a nice... I should have bookmarked it sooner. There we go. Here's a nice, obviously a summoner, summoning a big-ass demon, which probably not going to go the way he wants. But it's always fun. So great. The other pro to this book is this is all you need. There's probably 20-plus source books out. You don't need those source books. This is the only source book you need, which is the good part. You can get by with just this core book. That's it. Nothing else. That's great. For $29, you've got a complete role-playing game. If you want more stuff, sure, you can go out and buy the Splat books and have all the information you want. This is a level-based game. It's a D20 game. Rolling high is good. Most damage is on 2d6, but you will pretty much use a full set of polyhedrals. You don't need them a whole lot. Like I said, most of the damage is on d6s, if I remember correctly. Maybe a d8 and a d10. I don't know. Let's look. Let's find the equipment section. Full table of contents, full index, no index, which is the downside. And some of his later books fix that, but this one does not. But there is a full world guide in here. There is all the stuff you need to play the game. Let's see here. It's an experience point system. And we'll go over some of the things that I like about it. But what I'm looking for is the equipment section. Equipment. Here we go. Page 270. Always good to have. Magic items. Woohoo. Fairy foods. Curses. I mean, you got everything in this book. All kinds of spells. D4s, D6s. Mostly that's all I'm seeing. 2d6, 2d4. It's been so long since I've ran this game. I really need to run it again. But that'll come into the con section. So what's great about this, the pros of this is very detailed characters. When you create a Palladium fantasy character, you have a character that you know inside and out. You'll have all your skills, you'll have all your abilities, and as you level, and it's like I said, it's a level-based system. As you level, you'll get more abilities, or your bonuses will go higher, which is, in my opinion, really, really gives you a good flavor for this game. I mean, because let's face it, we play these games to escape reality and to get better at what we're doing. So it's always awesome when your character levels up and you get new abilities. The Longbowman is probably my favorite character class in this game, next to the Mage. The mage is one of my favorites because the mage at first level you have an option to you create a cauldron, and there's a percentage chance, and it's really low. But I remember I was playing in a game years ago. I was a wee lad, and I was playing in a game, and I rolled it in front of the GM, and I rolled like an /4, and so I made it, and so I got a bunch of extra spells. Which this is one of the games where I feel that a magic user is not useless after they run out of spells. It is a skill-based system, so your lores and your knowledge rolls they mean something. D&D 5th edition has gone a long way to improve the usefulness of mages. They're not just glass cannons anymore. 4th edition 3.5 wizards were glass cannons. I don't care what anybody says. Once you ran out of spells, you were pretty useless. And what's nice about this is they were never useless here. If you ran out of spells, you could still swing a sword. You may not be super good at it, but you were better than like a 3.0 or 3.5 or 2nd edition D&D character, a wizard, because you had shit for hit points. Here you've got decent hit points, you've got decent SDC, and that's another thing we'll get into. I don't want this video to be too terribly long. Today is Tuesday, by the way, March 26th. It is currently 10 o'clock as I'm filming this. The cool thing about this game is you armor is obviously a big thing. And what I liked about Palladium's games and fantasy in general is your armor has hit points. Many times in like medieval movies and literature, we read about how the knights are fighting and, he scores a hit on his shoulder and it dents his armor, but he keeps fighting because he didn't take any damage. And they simulate that in this system with SDC, structural damage capacity. And I like it in the fantasy. I don't particularly care for the Rifts side of Palladium games. It's a good game. It's just not for me. But what I like about it in fantasy is your armor has hit points, SDC. When those are gone, your armor's shot. It provides you no protection. So your armor has an AC, and then or an AR, an armor rating. So in order, like the example they give is your armor, studded leather armor has an armor rating of 13. If I roll to hit you and I roll a 14 or higher, I hit you. I didn't hit your armor. But if I roll a 13 or less, minus, I believe it's a 1 through 4. 1 through 4 is always a fumble or a miss, 1 being critical. But if I roll a 5 through a 13, I've hit your armor. I still roll damage, but the damage comes off your SDC. Basically comes off the health of your armor. Once your armor's SDC is all gone, then your character, your PC starts taking physical damage. So it does prolong fights, but the cool part about it is it's very intuitive, I think. I've run this game several times over the years for many different varied players, and no one's ever really had a problem with it. You basically just say your armor has hit points, and everyone goes, oh, because the SDC throws people off. It's a term that if you're not familiar with Palladium games, you're like, what? And so the nice part is you just say, well, your armor has hit points. If I roll your armor value or less, it comes off your armor's hit points. If I roll above your armor value or your armor rating, it comes off of your hit points or your SDC. Because you have SDC. SDC is the nicks, the bruises, the fatigue that you experience in battle. Once all your SDC is gone, then it starts coming off your hit points, and that's when shit gets serious. So it does make combat prolonged in a way, but the nice part is if you're fighting an uber bad guy, he's going to be able to get around your armor SDC. A mage or a warlock or a diablerist is going to have spells that are going to bypass that and do damage directly to either your SDC or your hit points. So there's a little bit of a learning curve with this game, but it is not hard. Anybody who says, I can't run or I can't play Palladium, you're not trying, because this is not a hard game, guys. I think it's a very good game, and it's a very good fantasy game. So the art's solid. The book, like I said, I've had this book since it was brand new, and you can see it's a stitched, glued binding, and this book, you can see it's worn on the edges. the gloss cover is starting to peel off just a little bit. I've had this book for 20 plus years and it's still very usable, very playable. You can see I got some tabs on it and stuff. So that's what I like about the game. You can make pretty much any class you want. You want to make an assassin, you can play an assassin. Typically assassins are evil, but you can play one. You want to be a mind mage, which is super cool in my book. You can be. You want to be a healer. You want to be the consummate psychic healer. You can be. Because there's psionics in this game as well as magic, which is cool because it's just more options. And it's all in one book. You don't have to buy a separate book to get these options. And there's circle mages that use summoning circles and things like that. I hope the thing's not coming through. The Summoner OCC, which is awesome. They summon demons and minor extraplanar beings. Don't have to be evil. Doesn't hurt, I'm sure. But you can do it. There's all kinds of magic in here. Rune magic, symbol magic, summoning circles, all that kind of ward magic. I think that's a great picture right there. It's just, that dude is creepy. That's Mordecai the Black in my book. If I was going to make an NPC, that would be who he is. So you have your Diablerist. Let me just go to the beginning of the character section and we can kind of go through it. Because there is some cool shit in here. This is the bottom line. Like I said, Longbowman is my favorite. There's a monk OCC. OCCs in Palladium games are occupational character class. So that's what you're going to get your experience for. That's what chart you go. So list of OCCs. You have your clergies. They break down into subgroups. So you have clergy as a main group, men-at-arms, optional, practitioners of magic, and psychics. Those are all the cores. And then each one of those breaks down. So under clergy, you have druid, monk, priest of light, and darkness. Or priest of light and a priest of darkness. Clergies are your clerics, basically. They're your healers. The monk is a martial arts type guy, just like what you would think of. Your men-at-arms. This is where I think the game shines. Assassin, knight, longbowman, mercenary warrior, paladin, ranger, soldier, and thief. I'm telling you right now, those are all good. None of those are bad. Optional, merchant, noble, scholar, squire, vagabond, peasant, farmer. Those three are all in the same. These are actually optional player characters. So you could play a farmer. So I ran a convention game where all the characters were farmers. One of them was a psychic healer, but he was basically a farmer, and the only power he had was to heal. That was it. And they went out. They had to go out on an adventure because there were no heroes to be found, and the village was being plagued by goblins. And so they had to go stop the goblins. They couldn't hire anybody. They were a poor village, and so they got the most ablest of the four men and women in the village, and they went out. They took up arms. The blacksmith made weapons. They weren't great weapons. In fact, I think I ruled, if I remember correctly, if you rolled a 1 to 3, or you rolled a 1 to 4, or a 1 to 4 on a D20, there was a chance, you had a 50-50 chance your weapon would break, because the blacksmith was used to making horseshoes and shovels. He wasn't used to making weapons, and so he didn't have the knowledge. And man, it was one of the best games I ever ran. It was so much fun. But anyway, so then under practitioners of magic, you have your alchemist. That is a non-player character. Your diablerist, which is they do wards and things like that. A summoner, which is the one that summons demons and stuff, so it circles. A warlock, elemental magic. A witch, witchcraft. And a wizard, spell magic. Then your psychics, mind mage, psi healer, psi mystic, and psychic sensitive. I think my village healer was a psychic sensitive. So just a wealth, and everything is fully fleshed out in here. You won't sit here and go, what? I don't understand what this does. Everything's in here that you need. You don't need to buy any of the splat books. You can if you want. The Rifter is a pretty cool source of optional material that's written by the fans and some longtime Palladium writers for the company. Kevin Symbieta sometimes puts stuff in there as well, and there's sneak peeks. So definitely, if you see this, pick it up. I think it's well worth it. Now, those are the pros. The cons. Your monster, there's a bestiary in here. It's all the basic fantasy tropes that you need to get by. There is an optional Monster and Gods book, which will give you a crap ton of monsters and stuff to fill your world with, but you don't need to buy that. Like I said, you can get by with just this book. So that's another pro, is all you need is this book. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons, you need, if you're going to be the GM, you need access to all 3 books. That's $150. $29, you got everything you need right here. So there's a pro. Pro is the artwork is good. Pro is the game mechanics are pretty solid. They've held up through the test of time. I think they're still viable and they still work. For me, your mileage is my humble opinion. That's why you watch Mr. Mean, is to tell you it's a D20 based system. Skills are done on a percentage based, but attack and combat is all a D20. So, pros out of the way. Good book, obviously holds up to the test of time. Art is phenomenal. Mechanics are solid, and this is all you ever need to buy. So those are all the good pros. The cons. Your monsters, your NPCs, there's no pre-done stats. You have to create everything in here. Even if you buy some pre-done adventures, a lot of times the adventures will tell you, see the orc in the core rulebook. And then you have to go roll the stats because they just give you the dice ranges. So like an orc may have, physical beauty of 2d6 plus 1. So unless you can pull numbers out of your head, which everybody can, but if you want them to be legitimate and you want to make, viable antagonist for your game, you have to roll up all the stats for everything. There's no book you can buy. There's no monster manual with all the stats. Like an orc has a strength 15, a physical stamina of 20. It doesn't exist. You have to create everything. So that is a major con, in my opinion. It takes forever to make modules for this. And yeah, you can go on the web and you can find some pre-done stuff, but those people are technically violating Kevin Symbieta's IP and probably have gotten ceased and desist. One of the things you'll notice is when you look for stuff on the web for this, it's kind of hard to find. That's because you can't repost anything, and that's a con, but it's also a pro because Kevin has every right to protect his IP, and I fully expect him to do so. I think he's a little draconian about it at times. My understanding is, as of late in the last couple of years, he's lightened up a little bit, which is good. The other good thing is, and I guess this is a con, you can go buy all of these on DriveThruRPG, or most of them. He has slowly, over the last 5-10 years, been putting up all of his product on DriveThruRPG. So you can go to DriveThruRPG and pick this up as a PDF. I don't believe he's made them searchable, he's indexed them or anything. He's just uploaded the core files of PDF. So there's no bells and widgets and whistles and everything. There's nothing cool factor. You're not going to get anything in the PDFs that isn't in this book because I believe it's just the direct files that he's uploaded. But still, cool enough to have them as a PDF. If you're a gamer like me that uses his laptop at the game table, it's nice to have them as a PDF. I don't own too many of these in PDF because I have the physical books, so I just never got around to buying them. And of course, right now, buying game stuff is not an option, unfortunately. But if anybody from Palladium is listening and wants to send me free copies, hey, be my guest. Or any of you lovely people out there, I'll be more than happy to take an official drive-through download. Another con is the source books. There's too many. I understand the game's been out for 30 years, and you have to... It's a business, and you need to make books to make money. I get that. There's just... I shouldn't say it's a middle of the ground. It's not necessarily a con, and it's not. It is a pro, and it is a con. If you're just getting into this, and you're a completionist like me, the first thing you're going to want to do is go out and get all the books. Well, you see that shelf from that white book right there, all the way to right there. Those are all Palladium books. That's probably 15 books right there, averaging $25 a pop. That's a lot of money. And that's not even half of it. I don't think I have the Game Master's Guide out there or the Ultimate Spell Compendium. Those are more Rifts books, but they're pertinent. Yeah, I've got the Ultimate Guide to Magic and the Game Masters. Those are Rifts books, but they also help with Palladium Fantasy as well. But again, none of those books give you stats for monsters or NPCs. They give you the creation mechanism on how to make them and what you need to do to make them, but it doesn't give you full stats. And that's a con. It takes so much time to prep for a game. And I know because I've ran a lot of games. And the good news is nowadays with computers and word processors, you can save those files and you can just recycle them as you need them. You know, once you input an orc and an orc, ranger and an orc shaman and everything, you've got those stats. You just change the name, the bad guy name, maybe add or minus a couple more hit points in SDC, and you're good to go. But that's totally, it's still work you got to do. Man, beard is getting crazy, guys. So that's my biggest con with this. We are 25, almost 26 minutes into it. We're going to, if there's anything you can think of that I missed in the reviews, like I said, not a full-blown rules overview. I just it's a decent system. I think it's a good game. If you have it in your collection, great. If you're new to it, I say go to a convention, try a game and see if it's in your wheelhouse. See if you like it. One of the neat things about gaming conventions is you can go to a gaming convention, you can play games you've never played before. I do that anytime I go to a game convention. I try to play at least one game that I've never played before. And to be honest, that's how I fell in love with the Dark Eye. Just do it, man. Just jump into a game you've never played. Go into it with an open mind, and you might just find a gem. I mean, Palladium Fantasy, the Dark Eye. There's tons of other games out there that you'll totally just fall in love with. So pretty much that's my biggest con is the NPC monster creation that you have to manually do, and the amount of sheer books that are out for this. You will go financially broke trying to buy everything. Might be a little bit cheaper to get everything on a PDF and then print what you need as you need it. In this day and age. I mean, I have a really nice laser printer down there that does color, black and white, and double-sided. So I can print whatever game book I need to print. But I don't because it can get expensive when you start packing on that toner. But anyway, I have the access to it. If I absolutely need to print something, I can print it and roll on. So that's what I wish these guys would do, a monster manual that has, orc and doesn't like D&D. I know why they don't, because it's their flavor. It's how they've designed their games. And it just, you've got to be somewhat of a dedicated GM to put that amount of effort. And unfortunately, in this day and age, when you're pressed for time, you've got kids, you've got job responsibilities, you've got life responsibilities. Not everybody has, 4 to 5 hours a week to devote to making NPCs and monsters for their encounters. You want to just open a book and go, I'm going to use that guy. And there's all the stats I need. So that's a downside. Palladium, I wish they'd get their act together and create something like that, or commission someone to make some gaming software, and let's make this. Let's bring this game into the 20th century, because computers are everywhere. They're not going away, and this game sorely needs. So that's another con. It is very computer intolerant. They just recently, within the last couple of years, got PDFs. There's no character creation software. There's no web support as far as, downloading NPCs and stuff like that, for the most part. You can find some, but it's not super easy to do. So they do have a well-supported forum. You can go to palladiumbooks.com and then click on the forum button. And, a lot of times you'll get a lot of help, but don't go there asking, hey, does anybody have stats for this? Because you'll get a ban hammer and people telling you, oh, you can't do that. That's against Palladium's content rules and yada, yada, yada. And that's fine. All right. So that's my thoughts on Palladium Fantasy. If it's not in your collection, pick it up. I think it's worth it. I think it's a good read. Now, we're gonna pause right here for a second at roughly 30 minutes into the video. The review is over, so we're gonna go 30 minutes. Rant starts. So you've got a second. Go get a cup of water, You got about 15 seconds. So I'm going to take a sip of my Kickstarter. Kickstart, not Kickstarter. Okay. And then we're going to get into Mr. Mean's rant, because enough time has gone by. I feel like it's okay to talk about this now, because I pretty much didn't want to talk about it earlier. All right, 30-minute mark. If you don't want to hear my rant, in the video here, enjoy your day. You're beautiful, wonderful people, and I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. Now, Kickstarter. Robotech. The colossal fuck-up that Palladium Books did. The screw job that Kevin Symbieta did to everybody. For those that don't know, this Kickstarter raised over $1.4 million. There were supposed to be several waves of product coming out for this miniature game based on the IP of Robotech. Everybody knows that Kevin Symbieta and Palladium Books has had the Robotech license for years. Well, because they fucked this up, and I don't know this for sure, I'm just speculating, it's just Mr. Mean's opinion, and everybody knows I'm mean. I believe he lost this IP due to this screw up. I think Harmony Gold and the people that own Robotech just saw what a cluster it was and decided they weren't going to leave it with them anymore, that it was going to hurt them more than it was going to help them. Now, that being said, before I get too deep into this, I know there are millions of Palladium fanboys and fangirls, and good for you. I strongly believe standing behind your game of choice and supporting your companies that you love. And I'm a big fan of Palladium Books. I have many of their books up on the shelf. I have many of their books still over here in boxes waiting for shelf space. I'm a big fan of Palladium Books, but I cannot overlook the tragedy that was the Robotech Kickstarter. Over $1.4 million was mismanaged and poorly executed in this Kickstarter, and there was nothing but excuses and drama. And let's face it, guys, even if you're a Palladium fanboy or fangirl, and I consider myself one of those, I really do. I don't want this to seem like I am bashing them, because I'm not. I'm just pointing out something that in my mind is egregious and horrible, and they should be made to own up to this screw up. It really should, and they have not done that yet, to my knowledge. And if I'm wrong, please point it out in the notes below. But I believe you have a certain, when you produce a widget, whatever that widget may be, if you produce a product and you take people's money, it is your job to deliver what you promised. And that is the goal of Kickstarter. Kickstarter is a system in place to help designers, manufacturers, think tanks, entrepreneurial people to get whatever their product, their widget is, out to the market and say, hey, I've got a cool concept. I believe this will work. I need your money to make it work. And if you provide me whatever that starting goal is, if you provide me that money, and I can, then I can make it work. So that's how that works. And then if you meet that goal, then your job is to make it work. Now, Palladium Games, Palladium Books asked for $70,000. I said, hey, if you give us $70,000, we can get the 3D render models done, we can get the manufacturing done, we can get the cardboard and everything printed, we can get the manuals and the dice, and we can get it all put together. And if we go over that, we'll have X amount of stretch goals. Great, no problem there. So they were asking for $70,000, and they raised $1.4 million. Double what they were asking. Over double of what they were asking. So in all intents and purposes, they should have been able to provide what they said they were going to produce. They were going to have a wave 1 and a wave 2, if I remember correctly. I'm looking at the Robotech Kickstarter page right now, and they unlocked quite a bit of stuff. They didn't get to the 1.5. They got to the 1.43. So they unlocked 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They unlocked 10 out of their 15 or so stretch goals, which is pretty awesome. Good for them. The funding period for this Kickstarter was April 18th, 2013 to May 20, 2013. 32 days, basically a month. And they raised $1.4 million. Then everything went to shit. 232 updates. The bottom line is, for those that don't know, this Kickstarter failed miserably. Nobody got their products, or nobody got exactly what they were promised. I did see a couple videos of Wave 1 product, and it looked pretty good. You can go on the Kickstarter page and you can read all the background from the updates and the comments, and you'll see what a cluster this was. Only Wave 1 was delivered. Nobody, I don't believe, and I could be wrong. Again, I haven't followed this as closely as I wanted to, just because I have enough negativity in my life. And man, when you read some of these comments, it's bad. Nobody got their Wave 2, or very few people got Wave 2. So then what Palladium Books went back and they said, okay, look guys, we mismanaged money. They never came out and said they mismanaged. They said that they had ran into problems with the manufacturer of the STL files, and they had to redo them because they weren't compatible with who they were having to print the models, and yada yada. So one excuse after, and they had to repay for all of that to get done. Again, I don't see where that comes up to $1.4 million, dollars, but I don't understand manufacturing cost that much, so I can't really say. No refunds. This is the pisser that gets me, and this is where I think our government needs to step in, and they need to legislate Kickstarter and say, there has to be some guidelines that if a project funds, and if it's not an acceptable amount of time, the money's given back. And if the company can't give the money back, then they are forced to, they should have litigation brought against them, and they should be brought to court, and they should be made to pay for all those backers. I think that's fair. If I'm giving you my money, I don't just give money away for free. I mean, I'm on this channel, 3 times a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, asking you for money because I'm unemployed and I can't pay my bills, and I'm asking for help. But in order to do that, what I promise you is I make videos of content that hopefully you enjoy. So I'm giving you something in return for the money that you're giving me, whether it's $1 or $200, doesn't matter. You're giving me money. I feel I am obligated to give you content that you enjoy. You may not like everything I say, but you watch the video, you get some entertainment, or you glean some knowledge from it, and hopefully that is enough to say, hey, well, it was worth $10 to me. I feel like I got my money's worth. And if I did, great. But in this case, $1.4 million, and you can't come up with product. You can't give people their money back, and then you basically shut down. There was a time period where nobody from Palladium Books was talking on their comment section, and the comment section is so toxic. If you think your life is bad, go read these comments. They're horrible. These people have nothing nice to say. I don't know how much this has affected Palladium Books in the long run, because there are rabid fans, and good for them. But if you were I don't want to say the nice part, the decent part of this, or maybe the saving grace for Palladium Books RPG, and that's predominantly what this company is that this was a miniatures model game, plastic miniatures that you had to put together, almost like little models. You had to put them together, and it was a skirmish-based game. That's not what Palladium is known for. So the people that backed this, and I'm sure there were quite a few that were diehard Robotech anime fans, and they were maybe diehard Palladium fans for the RPG, or they played the Robotech RPG, and then these miniatures were just going to be icing on the cake for their. But I would garner that. I'd say at least 60 to 70% of the backers were all miniature gamers of some kind, and maybe had a passing interest in Palladium's RPG, but They were more interested in the miniatures aspect of this game and or the models, which rightly so. It was a models game. So I don't think that the failure of this Kickstarter has negatively impacted Palladium Books financially as much as it could have. Now, I know there was talk of getting a class action lawsuit and stuff if you read the notes. I don't know if that went any further. And the only reason I don't is because to read all the comments, there is 102,000, almost 103,000 comments on this thread. So that's a lot of stuff to read through. I did see that Palladium at the beginning of this year was offering some sort of return on investment or something like that. I'm waiting for the... There we go. Final process of RRT reward exchange. Let's see. RRT... I don't know what RRT stands for. Robotech return? I don't know. All right, here's a clarification. Clarifications and RRT backer reward exchange update. Many people have noted the lack of great detail in the announcement from Kevin a few days ago, as Kevin stated that that announcement was not meant to get into great detail, but to provide the broad strokes of the past and current status of, okay, so the Robotech, RRT is the Robotech miniatures game, has always been our intention to provide pertinent additional information. I have spent the past few days reading every single comment from the backers on Kevin's announcement, as well as the 2 updates after it. I've also been reading comments from other sources as well. Below are answers to some of the most common questions being asked. Please remember, this is a business and we are constrained by what we say by contracts and non-disclosure agreements. If you don't see your question, it may be either A, we cannot talk about it, B, we are still getting the answer, or C, it was answered in Kevin's announcement or the subsequent updates. They go on to list a couple of these, and I'll go through the why doesn't the dollar amount that Kevin talked about in the announcement equal the amount raised in the Kickstarter? What happened to the rest of the money? Okay. Answer. The people have been asking this or variants of this question. While we are bound by contractual agreement to not discuss specific dollars amounts spent in some areas, other areas can freely share that information. For instance, Kevin can tell you how much was spent on tooling and 3D file corrections. In order to give people a better idea of the overall cost of RRT, that's the game itself, and without violating any contracts or NDAs, we are provided to a pie chart to give you the full cost of producing Wave 1 and broke it down by percentages where funds went. Due to the way that the graphic shows in the announcement, it's a narrow and difficult to read unless specifically clicked on. There have been many who have assumed that it only refers to the dollar amount quoted by Kevin. To help clear up any confusion, here in text are the numbers as presented in the chart. Project expenses to produce and ship Wave 1 was $1.5 million. Bullshit. I'm going to just call bullshit on it. 38% manufacturing, 3D corrections, prototypes, molds, manufacturing, battle foam bags. Okay, battle foam bags wasn't part of the initial Kickstarter, so bullshit. 3D corrections and prototypes, that doesn't take 1.5 million, first of all. And I'm sorry, these 3D models were done on a computer. Supposedly the STL files were the wrong format and they had to be redone. Bullshit. If that printer won't do it for you and they don't have the tooling process, go find another one. There's too many big black holes here. 23% design, artwork, 3D sculpting, 3D prints, rules, Ninja Division participation. That sounds about fair. 23%. That would make sense to me. Again, I'm not an expert, but that, artwork, and I know that's expensive. 14% shipping, import from China, shipping to U.S. and international backers. I'll give them that. 10% on licensing. Harmony Gold's got to get their cut. 7% to Kickstarter and Amazon fees. Makes total sense. 3% project management. 3% advertising and promotion. I'm going to cry bullshit on that because it's a Kickstarter. Why are you trying to throw in advertising and promotion in there? That's bullshit. It's Kickstarter. It's its own advertising. You don't need, so you paid 7% to Kickstarter and you gave them another 3% for advertising? No. 2% pledge manager fees. And I get that. That makes sense because they went through BackerIt or somebody. They used an external source. That's a lot of money and a lot of people to organize. I get that. Question number 2, should backers who wish to exchange Wave 2 pledges for Wave 1 rewards submit their credit card info through Kickstarter? Answer, no. In the interest of security, please do not include your credit card information in an email or Kickstarter message after we have sent you the exact ship. Makes sense. Fair enough. Here's the other thing. You back the Kickstarter. They got all this money. You can't get your Wave 2 stuff. So right then and there, end of story. Give me my money back. That's the bottom line. Give me my money back. But see, the way Kickstarter is written and the way the laws work, you have no recourse. So it's kind of a win-win for Palladium Books. They get to walk away with this money, and you have really little to no recourse. It just gripes my goat there. Now they're saying you can return your Wave 2 for Wave 1 because that's all they got produced, and you can use that money to get your Wave 1, but you still have to pay the shipping. Now, through this fiasco, and by the way, estimated delivery was December of 2013. I'll even go so far as to say, okay, we'll give you an extra year, December of 2014. And then on top of that, we've got 15, 16, 17. And now we're a quarter of the way into 2019. So we got 4 more years, and they still haven't gotten that product. At that point, you need to pay for the damn shipping yourself. I'm sorry, Palladium Books. You screwed the pooch. You're not giving me what I asked for. You're giving me something in lieu of, which is not what I wanted. And now you're telling me I have to give you more money? Oh, hell no. So then some people want to know if they could get to 3D STL files. They say no because it's a Robotech licensed product, and they no longer own the license. So granted, I get that. That makes total sense. Can backers get physical Robotech books as part of their reward substitution for Wave 2? Yes. And they're charging you for it, which makes sense. You know, if you didn't get your Wave 2 stuff and you want to get the RPG stuff, they can't produce anything new because they don't own the license anymore. But I believe the way their license worked out, they're able to sell any existing stock they have. So that's okay. And they give you the prices, and they're good prices. They're value. Can backers get PDFs of the old Robotech game as part of their rewards for Wave 2? Yes. So that's good. Drive-through accounts. Okay. The con exclusive limit of 1 per backer plus 1 per $100. Does this mean only one type of figure? Okay, so that's irrelevant. We don't care about it. Can backers pick up their Wave 1 substitutes at the office? Yeah, so basically you could go there to the store and you could pick it up, the Palladium warehouse. Can backers give the remaining amount to another person? Yes, but the backer must put it. Okay. Why has there been no announcement of Wave 2 on our website or our Facebook? We wanted to announce the first on the Kickstarter page to the people who are directly affected by this sad turn of events. Final thought. Just as I've been reading the comments on Kevin's announcement and the update since, I will continue to do so. Thank you, everyone who has been in contact with us. Scott Gibbons. Scott, you're a brave man for going out there and doing that. So, guys, I guess the overall thing here is spend your money wisely. I would have never in a million... Well, actually, I would, because I've been a longtime fan of Palladium Books, and in the 20-plus years that I've been a fan and reading their forums and listening to Kevin's rants and stuff, he's always begged for money. He's always, woe is me, this bad thing happened, this happened, the store got robbed, my wife left me. It's always been some sort of drama. And so, to be honest, in my opinion, strictly my opinion, when I saw that this Kickstarter was happening, I said, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And I'm glad I didn't, because look, these people have gotten screwed. You know, that's ridiculous, guys. And the fact that in America, our government can't do something to help these 5,342 backers that didn't get their shit. This is utterly ridiculous, and it's shameful. Shameful. Shame on Palladium Books. Shame on Kickstarter. I understand Kickstarter washing their hands of it and not, they just get their 7% and they walk away. They make money when a project like this goes this gangbuster. They make a lot of money, and all they're doing is providing a website and hosting some files if you decide to upload a video. So it's a great scam. I mean, I like Kickstarter. I support it as much as I can for the products that I want, but I only back products that have a proven track record. And I don't back anything else because I'm afraid for things like this. This is horrible. Palladium took $1.4 million and ran with it. Almost $1.45 million and ran with it. And there's nothing anybody can do. You're just screwed. You're out your $100 or $200 or, $25, whatever it is. That's a lot of money, guys. And I'm sorry, I call bullshit on his breakdown of cost. $1.5 million for 3D rendering, dude. I mean, there are fans, rabid fans in the Robotech universe that would have done that shit for free, and it would have been great quality. Look at the amount of files that are coming out. If you go look to Thingiverse and all that stuff. There's some high quality STL and other types of 3D modeling files. To say that you spent that much, and they never, as far as I know, they never list or name the company that did the modeling for them. There's a good question. Why can't we talk as a, and I'm not a backer, so I really can't say we, but I'm hypothetically, as a backer, why can't I find out who made those files? And why can't I go to them and say, hey, why'd you guys fuck this up? Or what has Palladium done to make it right or to work with you to get this right? I don't, I don't understand, guys. Please help me understand. I said this was going to be a rant, and we're going on another 30 minutes here, almost 30 minutes, and I'm going to wrap it up here in an hour. But $1.4 million, and they don't have shit to show for it. And they lost the Robotech license. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, that tells me that Harmony Gold and the other, there's a parent company behind Harmony Gold. I can't think of the name of them. It's not Bandai. But they had no faith in Palladium. And they said, you guys screwed this up and we're out. And rightly so. I mean, if you take your car to a mechanic and he fucking makes it worse than when you brought it in, you're not going to go back to that mechanic. And you're going to want your money back. And you're going to want them to pay the bill when you take it to a new shop to get it fixed. So if those STL files were bad to start with, or the printer in China, which I understand printing in China, it's cheaper. But Kevin, you pride yourself on being an American-based company and everything. Why didn't you find an American-based printer? The fans would have supported it. You had the money. So there's just, guys, in my opinion, there's too much bullshit here that doesn't add up. And, when you shove enough shit down my throat, you got to cry enough's enough. And I just think the fans, got royally screwed. And I'll tell you it's been 2 years now, ever since this fiasco that I heard about it and I read up, I was kind of vaguely following it in the background. And then I started hearing more and more, scuffle about it. And then I started reading those notes and stuff. I'm not supporting Palladium Books anymore. If you could rob people of $1.4 million and not be held accountable in any way, shape, or form, and you have the gall to, they've got a new crowdfunder on their website for a fantasy book. There's no way in God's creation I'm going to give you money. You can't manage one project and then you're going to, but notice they didn't take that project to Kickstarter. They're crowdfunding it on their own website, like they did with their Northern Gun book, which I got my book, I got it signed, I got the leatherette cover, but that was way before any of this stuff started. So that was years ago. It was before even, I think, Kickstarter was even around. It was just called crowdsourcing back then. So, I mean, just to tell you how upset people are with Palladium and this Robotech, 102,910 comments in the comment section. We are now almost a quarter of the way through 2019. This project was supposed to have been delivered December of 2013. So we're looking at, almost, might as well say 5 years, a solid 5 years of no product. December 2018 made 5 years that people didn't get their stuff. You know, and a lot of the people, at least from what I read on the forums, a lot of the people, or the Kickstarter message boards, a lot of the people backed at the, you know, Wave 2 level. They wanted that stuff that was coming out in Wave 2. They didn't want the Wave 1 stuff. Because the Wave 2 stuff was supposed to be super cool and uber and, you know, da-da-da-da. And no refunds given, guys. No. What do you guys think about this? I mean, is this travesty? Is this in my book is a crime. I think Palladium book, I don't know if they have shareholders. I think it's a solely owned company by Kevin. It's an LLC, if I remember correctly, which means it's a business in and of itself, and Kevin owns that business. So if you sue the business, you're not necessarily affecting Kevin, but anybody who's followed Palladium books for any amount of time knows that Kevin is Palladium books. And I think the only saving grace here, if there is any, is that the Palladium Games RPG fans were not the ones that backed this Kickstarter. And so they don't feel any repercussions. They don't feel any ownership. They don't feel any, like, they've been slighted. I'm sure a number of those backers were Palladium fanboys and stuff like that, you know, Robotech fans or Mechanoid fans or whatever. And that's great. But I think they're in the minority. I think the larger percentage of backers were like miniature gamers, anime fans who weren't necessarily tabletop RPG fans, or at least not Palladium book fans in that aspect. And so I think, in my humble opinion, that's why Palladium book hasn't really taken a hit. I'm sure their sales have gone down a little bit, but you know, now it's a year or two later, the hubbub has died down. The fervor of everyone being felt like they were screwed over is gone. If you read the latest comments on the Kickstarter, some guy who has, I mean, he has more viewers than I do. He has like 1,900 subscribers. So he's obviously a bigger channel than mine. And I guess he does tabletop reviews. I've never seen him before. I don't know who the guy is, but he does an interview with Kevin. And evidently nowhere in that interview do they talk about Robotech. And the fiasco that it was, or anything about Robotech. It's just about Palladium RPG and the crowdfunder, I guess, that's going on. And then what I find amazing is, well, I find it disheartening as a YouTuber. No negative comments at all. I trolled through all of the comments for the review. Not one negative comment. The very last comment says SDC, MDC, no thank you. But that's not, that's not neither here nor there as far as anything against like Robotech or anything. So I think the comments are being highly moderated. I think I wouldn't hazard to guess that Kevin said, I will do this interview, but you're not allowed to ask me about XYZ, meaning anything Robotech or Kickstarter related. And I think it's funny that if you go to their website, you see the latest Palladium fantasy book is crowdfunded. It's not Kickstarter funded, it's crowdfunding. It's only on Palladium's website, and he's asking people to share it and, go from there. So that part is just amazing to me. And so, guys, that's kind of what I think. Like I said, I didn't want to go too long. We're coming up on the 30-minute mark for this rant. I wanted to get it off my chest because it bugs me. And I feel bad for the people that got screwed over, and I feel bad that, Palladium Books is not being held properly accountable for this. I've withdrawn my support from Palladium Books. I don't go to their message boards. I don't buy any of their products. That's just me. I'm not saying you should do that. My earlier review still stands. I'm a fan of Palladium Fantasy. If offered to play in a game, I will totally play. I do think it's a great RPG. I think Rifts is a really good RPG. I'm just not going to buy any new product. To be honest, with all that back there, I don't need any new product. And it's not a game that I'm actively looking to run or wanting to run. To be honest, every time I pick it up, the only thing I see is the Robotech fiasco, and I just can't get over it because to me it's a travesty, and they should be held accountable, and those people should get their money back. It's that simple. But that's basically what I wanted to go over. Let me know how you feel about it, what you think, and as always, peace and hair grease, and remember, Mr. Mean says, be nice.